I gave my son, Alex, $600 a week for a year, but on Thanksgiving, he publicly said, "You're bothering me."
Why did you even come? I was taken aback and left the gathering. A day later, he was pleading for my attention.
I should have anticipated this, I really should have. When Mia approached me last year, expressing her struggles to afford university, I didn't hesitate. She was my daughter, and I had always been there for her. She told me she was overwhelmed with tuition, books, and rent, claiming she had nowhere else to turn. My parents had never been generous, they always favored Mia, but when it came to finances, they were stingy with everyone. They never helped me during my college years, and they didn't assist her either, or at least that's what she told me.
So, I stepped in.
I wasn't wealthy, but I had a stable job, a home with my partner, Lisa, and minimal expenses.
I thought, what's $600 a week if it helps my daughter succeed in school? That's how it began.
Every Friday, without fail, I sent her the money. For months, I felt like I was doing the right thing, like I was the responsible parent in the family. But then, small things began to feel off. She never mentioned school, no complaints about professors, no stress about exams, no talk of projects or grades. At first, I thought she was just being private, but then, out of the blue, my youngest son, Ethan, casually mentioned something that made my stomach drop.
We were chatting one night, and he was sharing some family drama when he said, "Oh yeah, Mia's place is nice."
I mean, she shares it with her friends, but it's way better than here.
I paused. Wait, she has roommates? Ethan hesitated.
Yeah, she didn't tell me that. She made it sound like she was struggling to pay the rent on her own, which was one of the main reasons I sent her money. I didn't confront her right away, I just started paying closer attention.
Then another red flag popped up.
One night, while talking to Ethan again, I asked him about Mia's classes.
He went quiet before finally saying, "I don't think she goes anymore." That hit me like a punch to the gut.
I pressed him for more details, and he finally admitted that she hadn't been attending for a while, had failed a few classes, and had probably stopped going altogether. She was on the verge of being expelled.
That was the moment I realized I had been played.
So, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cut her off completely, at least not yet, but I was done being a fool. Instead of sending her $600 a week, I sent her $300.
She noticed immediately. Within minutes of sending it, I received a text, "Hey, you only sent $300. Mistake?" I ignored it. An hour later, another text, "You forgot the rest." Then another, "Hello?" I still didn't respond. After that, she went silent.
2 weeks passed, and every Friday, I sent her $300, and every Friday, she remained quiet.
I figured she got the message.
Thanksgiving was just 2 weeks away, and I wasn't planning on attending the family dinner that year. I had nothing against the holiday itself, but I had learned that family gatherings usually meant unnecessary stress. But then Ethan called me, saying, "Come on, Dad, it's just one dinner."
So, I went. Big mistake.
When I arrived, everything seemed normal. My mother was carving the turkey, my father was setting the table, Ethan was fiddling with his phone, and Lisa was helping in the kitchen but seemed distant. For a moment, I thought maybe I had overreacted, perhaps Mia just needed time to cool off. Then Mia came downstairs. She didn't greet me or even look my way. Instead, she walked straight into the living room, plopped down on the couch, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Why did you even come? You annoy me." The room fell silent. I just stared at her, thinking maybe I misheard. She scoffed, "No one invited you." I looked at my parents, waiting for them to say something, anything, but they just kept carving the turkey as if nothing was happening. I turned to Lisa for support, but she avoided eye contact. I didn't say a word, I just grabbed my keys, turned around, and walked out. Not a single person tried to stop me. 24 hours later, Mia was at my door with my parents and Lisa. I hadn't expected to hear from Mia after what happened at Thanksgiving. If anything, I figured she'd spend the next few weeks bad-mouthing me to my parents or sending passive-aggressive texts before moving on. I wasn't what I anticipated. Mia didn't appear embarrassed or caught off guard, she simply rolled her eyes as if I were being overly dramatic. My mother barely blinked, while my father sighed and muttered something about how it wasn't a big deal. Lisa stood there, not defending me, not saying a word. That was when I truly understood the depth of their favoritism. My mother actually defended Mia, claiming she was young and needed support, that she wasn't built for the same struggles I had faced. She insisted it was easier for parents to earn money, so it wasn't fair for me to hold it against Mia. It felt like something out of a bad sitcom. Mia just sat there with her arms crossed, waiting for me to cave, as if this were a minor disagreement and I would relent as soon as I calmed down. That's when I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and canceled the automatic transfers right in front of her. As soon as she realized what I had done, her face twisted with rage. She jumped up from the couch and screamed that I couldn't do that, that I had no right. My mother gasped, as if I had just committed an unspeakable crime. My father sighed, already weary of the conversation. Lisa finally spoke up, but only to say, "Think about what you're doing." Mia kept demanding to know what she was going to do, as if it were my problem. I told her she could figure it out like the rest of us. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. My mother shot me a long, disappointed look before following Mia out. My father just shook his head, muttering something under his breath as he left without another word. Lisa stared at me, shook her head, and said, "I can't believe you'd do this to your own daughter," before following them out. I locked the door behind them and sat down, feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. But Mia wasn't done, not even close. I thought that was the end of it, that Mia would sulk, complain to my parents, and eventually move on. Maybe she'd find another way to pay her bills, or perhaps she'd actually get a job for once. Either way, I was done. But Mia wasn't going to let things go that easily. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages, some from her, some from my mother, and some from numbers I didn't even recognize. Lisa was giving me the cold shoulder at breakfast. I ignored the messages at first, assuming it was the usual guilt trip, but when my phone kept buzzing every few seconds, I finally caved and checked. Mia was furious. She went from demanding that I fix this to insulting me in rapid succession. She called me selfish, ungrateful, and a terrible father. She claimed I had no idea how hard she had it and that I was ruining her life over a little money. My mother's messages were even worse. She told me that Mia had cried all night, that she didn't know how she was going to pay the rent, and that I had abandoned my own daughter. She kept repeating that family takes care of each other. The messages from the numbers I didn't recognize were from Mia's friends. She had actually told them that I refused to help her, and now they were messaging me on her behalf, calling me names and telling me I was a bad father. One even had the audacity to say it was my responsibility as a father to take care of my daughter, no matter what. It was so absurd that I almost laughed. Instead of replying, I blocked every single number. That should have been the end of it, but later that evening, just as I was about to head out for groceries, I opened the door and nearly walked right into Mia. She was standing there with her arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept. Behind her, my mother was rubbing her temples, as if the whole situation had exhausted her. My father was nowhere to be seen, he probably didn't want to deal with it at all. Lisa stood behind them, arms crossed, looking at me with disappointment. Mia wasted no time. She told me I had one last chance to make things right, to send her the money and stop being so petty. She didn't even ask at this point, she just expected me to agree, as if this were a minor inconvenience and I was being stubborn. I told her no. She didn't take it well. She started ranting, pacing up and down the hallway, listing all the things she needed money for: rent, food, bills, unexpected expenses. She claimed she didn't have time to get a job because she was too busy. When I asked what she was doing, she waved me off as if the question didn't matter. My mother chimed in, saying "You dodged a bullet, Dad." I didn't even know how to respond. I should have felt relieved that she wasn't my problem anymore, but I knew exactly what was coming next. A week later, I received the call I had been anticipating, my mother. I let it go to voicemail, but a few minutes later, a text came through: "Call me. We need to talk." I already knew where this was headed, but I called back anyway,
just to get it over with. She didn't even say hello before diving in. Mia needed to come home, but their house wasn't big enough for 4 people with Ethan still living there. They weren't willing to fully support her, and Dad was getting frustrated. Then she said the words I had been expecting: "If you're not going to send her money, at least let her stay with you and Lisa for a while." I actually laughed out loud. My mother didn't appreciate it. She insisted that Mia just needed a few months to get back on her feet and that it wouldn't be fair to let her struggle when we had room. I asked if Mia had even looked for a job. My mother hesitated before finally admitting, "She's still adjusting." Adjusting? Mia had been living rent-free for a week, doing absolutely nothing, and now they were going to dump her on me? I shut that down immediately. I told my mother there was no way Mia was moving in with us if she didn't want to work. That was her problem. My mother didn't take it well. She accused me of abandoning my family, said I was being cruel and selfish, and that I was holding a grudge over a few unkind words at Thanksgiving. I hung up. That should have been the end of it, but when I came home from work the next day, I saw something that made my blood run cold: Mia standing outside our house with 2 suitcases. I stood there for a few seconds, just staring at her. She wasn't crying or begging, she was simply standing there like she belonged there, as if it had already been decided. The suitcases told me all I needed to know: she wasn't there to ask if she could stay, she had already decided to move in. I walked past her, unlocked my door, and stepped inside without saying a word. She grabbed one of her suitcases and tried to follow me in, but I blocked the doorway. Lisa was inside, watching the scene unfold without saying a word. Mia's expression shifted to instant frustration. Seriously? I asked what she was doing there. She scoffed and said, "Grandma said you'd let me stay. She told me to just come over and get settled in." I almost laughed. I told her in no uncertain terms that she wasn't moving in, that I had already told my mother no, and that it was crazy to show up unannounced with suitcases. Mia didn't flinch. She rolled her eyes and muttered something about me being ridiculous. It was as if she had expected resistance but thought I would give in eventually. She even tried to go in again, but I didn't move. Lisa came to the door and said, "Let her in, Richard. She's your daughter." I stood my ground. Mia sighed dramatically and crossed her arms. Where else would I go? I told her it wasn't my problem. She scoffed, "You have the space. It's not like you're using the spare room for anything important. Why do you even care?" I told her I cared about my peace, my sanity, and not being manipulated into taking care of an entitled adult who refused to get a job. She hated that answer. Lisa looked at me with shock and disappointment. Mia's voice got louder. She said I was pathetic for leaving my daughter out in the cold, that I was selfish for not helping my family. She even had the nerve to say, "It's just until I figure things out." I asked her if she had even tried to get a job. She made a face as if I had just asked the dumbest question in the world. "Grandma and Grandpa said you'd take care of things. Mom agrees with them." That was it, that was all I needed to hear. I stepped back, grabbed the door, and said, "Then go to them," and I slammed the door in her face. Lisa was furious. "How could you do that to her? She's your daughter." I turned to my wife and finally said what I had been thinking for months: "And where were you when I needed support? You've sided with her through this entire thing." She didn't scream or slam anything, she just stood there for a second, probably in shock, then stormed off to our bedroom. Outside, I heard Mia muttering angrily to herself before she grabbed her suitcases and stomped off. I shut my phone, waiting for her to contact me and try to explain herself. She never did. Instead, my mother called. I let it ring. She called again and again. Then a text came through: "Mia told me you locked her out of the account. She needs the money, Richard. Call me now." That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no fixing this family. I called her back, not to argue, just to say one thing. I told her I was done with Mia, with them, with all of it. I told her I wasn't going to be manipulated, guilt, or robbed ever again. That Mia wasn't my responsibility, that I didn't owe them anything, and that from that moment on, I was cutting them off completely. My mother started to scream.
She called me selfish, cruel, ungrateful, said I was leaving my family for a little money, and that I would regret it. I hung up in mid-sentence, then I blocked her, blocked my father, and blocked Mia.
It was over.
I sat Lisa down and told her everything about the attempted theft and about my decision.
I told her she could either support me or join them.
She chose to stay, though reluctantly. A few weeks passed, and my life got quieter. My phone didn't explode anymore, no more surprise visits, no more guilt trips, no more entitled demands. Lisa and I slowly started rebuilding our relationship. It was the most peaceful I had felt in years.
Then Ethan called.
I hesitated for a second before answering. He was the only one I hadn't blocked, the only one I actually trusted. He sounded casual, as if nothing had happened. After a bit of small talk, he suddenly said, "Hey, Dad, so I was wondering, can I borrow $10?
I almost dropped the phone. You're joking, right? There was a long pause, then Ethan burst out laughing.
Dad, you should have heard yourself.
I got you so bad.
I sat there stunned for a second, then started laughing too. He got me for a split second, he actually got me. We talked for a while, and before we hung up, he said, "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Grandma and Mia are still mad, but Grandpa really doesn't care.
He barely talks about it."
Mia is unhappy, though, apparently. She actually had to get a job. Is shocking, right?
I smiled. Not my problem anymore.
And for the first time in my life, I really meant it. Update: it's been about 6 months since I cut ties with Mia and my parents, and I have to say, life has never been better.
My bank account isn't bleeding $600 a week anymore.
I don't get guilt texts every few days, and I no longer have to deal with Mia's endless entitlement. Lisa and I have reconciled completely. She finally saw things from my perspective. But just when I thought I had heard the last of Mia's nonsense, something unexpected happened.
Ethan called me out of the blue.
We still talked here and there, but this time his tone was different.
He wasn't joking or teasing me.
He just said, "You're going to want to hear this." Apparently, Mia's situation had gone downhill since I cut her off. In fact, she had to get a job, one that she obviously hated. But here's the kicker: she ended up moving out of my parents' house because even they got tired of her. At first, they had no problem letting her stay rent-free, but when my father got fed up with her constant complaining, he told her she had to start contributing, either by getting a better job or paying rent. She threw a fit, said it was unfair, and called them selfish.
Sound familiar?
Long story short, Mia tried to manipulate them the same way she did me, and it didn't work. She thought they'd cave, they didn't. So, she did what she does best: she found a new target. Ethan told me that Mia had moved in with one of her friends, the same ones who used to text me and call me a horrible father, the same ones who swore they'd always support her. And guess what? They kicked her out after 2 months. She didn't pay rent, didn't help with bills, and treated their apartment like a free hotel. They soon got tired of it and told her to leave. And here's the kicker: after burning every bridge she had, Mia actually tried to reach out to me. I checked my blocked messages later and saw a read text from a new number.
It was Mia.
She didn't apologize, didn't admit she was wrong. She just sent a message: "Hey Dad, I know things got messed up earlier, but I really need a place to stay for a while, just until I figure things out.